and less land available for cultivation. In addition to the climate and scarcity of water adversely affecting the crop, Pakistan has to rely primarily on increasing the yields per acre. There's no other way. We have to grow more from the limited land that we have. And for that purpose, our crops are being affected. Cotton yields in the last has dropped by 20% over the period of 3 years. We are importing agriculture produce. Last year in 21, we imported agriculture produce, including cotton and at times wheat, of a value of more than $3 billion. Being an agri-economy, it doesn't go well for us to import these agro products. Import of agriculture from countries, we are importing pulses, we are importing tea, we are importing oil seeds, particularly oil seeds and oil is the largest import. We import soya beans worth about $3 billion. I don't see why we cannot grow soya beans ourselves. We'll come to that later. We need to increase our yields. And the only way is to improve our seed quality, improve our water distribution, and above all, I think we are fixed up with the approvals that are required from the Ministry of National Food Security and Research, which are very difficult to import seeds if you want to. There's a lot of impediments, there are a lot of bottlenecks to get seed import permits. Our exports, whatever they are based on agriculture produce. Cotton, meat, poultry, textiles, they're all based on agriculture. Unless and until we have enough yields, we are uncompetitive. Cotton exports have not increased. Made-up cotton exports are not increasing. We still have to rely on import of cotton, which is really taking up too much of our foreign exchange. So we need to look into the reasons for these aspects. If you see the successful models around the world in agriculture, they are US, Brazil, and Argentina. The commonality in these countries is that they all grow GM crops. The GM crops provide far better yields. The farmers have to use less inputs like insecticide, pesticides, and herbicides. The plant health are better, the yields are better. Cost of production declines when you do this. It's more profitable for the farmers. But unfortunately, our government is averse to use of GM products. Unfortunately, our Ministry of National Food Security, the highest chair in the Ministry of National Food Security, made statements that chicken that has consumed soybean meal or canola meal, GM, is poisonous. It's carcinogenic, causes carcinogen. And these are far from reality. There's also a statement that the US does not consume GM products, which is far from reality. In the US, more than 90% of the farmland is under GM cultivation. They grow all the oil seeds, they grow cotton, uh, potatoes, beetroot, they're all GM products there. And they consume 80% of the groceries in the US and even in EU. They say the EU does not allow, this is not a fact, EU does allow. Nowhere in the world livestock production is successful without soya beans. Every country which is doing livestock farming, poultry farming, has to import soya beans or soybean meal. Now, I think, why can't we produce soya beans within our country? We've signed an agreement protocol, Cartagena Protocol, which requires establishment of licensing procedure for biosafety. Unfortunately, the Biosafety Committee of Pakistan has not come up with the licensing procedure as yet. So you can't even import. The poultry industry has gone through tremendous fiasco because the consignments of GM soya that were imported were not released. 2 consignments are still on the port in the open, and they are likely to be destroyed. The government insists that these 2 consignments have to go back. Rest of the 9 consignments are being cleared. It's the same product. It's the same GM product. If they can, clear the shipments standing outside, they can also clear the shipments that have been unloaded. So, it is really mind-boggling what are we doing with this. The poultry sector has really suffered a serious setback. And without the soya bean and corn, the combination of soya bean and corn for poultry feed is an ideal thing for production. Your feed conversion is far better if you use soya and corn. Without soya, the livestock and poultry industry will not really take off. We started importing soya from the US in 1984, and that made a tremendous change in the development of poultry. Poultry started increasing by almost 8 to 10% per annum. It still continues. But in the recent years, there has been a serious setback to poultry because of non-availability of soya beans. So the feed conversions have gone down, the cost of production has gone up, and there's no solution for it. Please.
Since you pointed fingers at the ministry, and maybe rightfully so, we have Anjum Butcher Saab with us over here, who is the Director General of Punjab Agricultural Department Extension Services, if I am not mistaken. So, Anjum Saab, what exactly is the challenge on the end of National Biosafety Committee, on the provincial agricultural departments, the Food Security Ministry, the Climate Change Ministry, the Environment Ministry? One also hears about the Science and Technology Ministry also being involved in the approval process. What challenges are being faced at the regulatory level internally? Number one, are they completely political in nature? Number two, the dangers that Khalil Saab has pointed to right now, is the ministry and the bureaucracy of the Food Security Department not acutely aware of them?
Thank you. This is indeed an odd matter of honor for me to explain the prospects and the challenges of corn crop in Pakistan. Basically, Punjab is the house of corn revolution, where in past 10 years, this crop expanded from 1.5 million acres to 3 million acres, double the area and almost 3 times the production. But likewise, the requirement of poultry, which is basically utilizing 65% of the corn produced in Punjab, other than the silage and for wet milling and etc., is a challenge for the corn producers, because the annual growth rate of corn, multi-sector, is around 7.5% per annum. The silage is also growing at the rate of 8%. We are at that moment producing over 9 million ton of corn in Punjab, but this is not enough. We are thinking that in coming years, we have to further expand either on the vertical basis or on the horizontal basis. If we see the horizontal expansion of the crop in the province, we see that in Punjab we have a competition of 4 crops. One is the corn, second is the rice, third is the cotton, and fourth is the sugarcane. Better taking care of raw material of any producer or the industry, the farmer is shifting to that, plus positive technologies. The corn revolution in Punjab we have seen through the hybrid seed revolution, better marketing, enabling environment, and shifting from cotton to corn were easy for the farmers because cotton was planted on ridges through dibbling. The corn has the same fashion. That's why if you see the decline of cotton and the growth of corn, you see that cotton has almost been exuded from the Saiwal division, from Faisalabad division, and now the corn is encroaching into the Multan division. Now the APTMA, the textile sector, is also backing their raw material. They're also consulting various agencies, you know, and that's why the per acre productivity of the corn is required, because no more area expansion will be possible beyond 3 million acre. There are 2 chances of vertical expansion. One is the targeting the hybrid replacement of seed in KPK, because over 3 million acres, we have another 1 million acre in KPK and other areas where we are not using the hybrid seeds. We can have the prospects of corn in that areas, more productivity. The second one, targeting more in the autumn varieties, because the autumn yield is still, Punjab is less than the spring yield, which is 53%. We are planting autumn crop and 47% we are planting corn crop. The challenges we are facing at the moment is the climate change. You have seen that the climate change is now dictating Pakistan agriculture. In Pakistan, the erratic rainfalls and erratic temperatures is not only impacting the economy, almost all crops. The pollination problems in corn are impacting very seriously in spring. You have seen 3 years back. Everybody was running behind the seed companies. It was not the case. It was simply the environmental change. That's why the more endurance is required. And for that more endurance, you require the new technologies, further improved technologies. And the further improved technology, as my senior Khalil Saab said, the GMO technology. I think the GMO had the solution around the world. In GMO, they are producing the drought tolerant, they are producing the insect tolerant, and they are marketing the nutritious crops. We have another challenge in Pakistan. We are having the fall armyworm problem. We are having the storage problems. We are having the harvesting time rainfall problems. And now we have in corn, because I am dealing all the 4 crops. And an extension agent, I'm fair to everyone. And that's why I'm thinking that the corn poultry sector has to take care of the corn producers as well. Because in this fierce challenge, you have seen the rice production has increased many times with the expansion of area. Earlier, we have only 4 million acre rice crop in Punjab. Now we have 6 million acre. From where this 2 million acre come from? Taken from cotton and taken from other crops. The farmers enabling technologies, specifically the harvesting technologies, specifically sowing technologies, specifically management technology can win. Corn being a good technological crop, more per acre yield, has the ability to withstand with the conditions. And I think that the GMO question is, I think that must be, but after clearance of the national commitments we have made in the Cartagena protocols, in the biosafety laws, and other commitments, I think the seed companies are well aware of that and they're working on it. And your second observation, and I'm basically dealing with the Punjab province, and that's why we are dealing with the production of the crop, and that's why we are simply managing their field trials. The decision making is basically from the Ministry of Food Security, and from that point of view, Ministry of Food Security and Ministry of Climate Change has to have very clear stand about the GMO crops, because we have 40 biotechnology institutes in Pakistan. We are producing hundreds of biotechnologists in Pakistan. We have to have a very clear stance, either go for biotech or not for biotech. If we are not for biotech, that must be very clear to everyone, so that we have not to invest more on the students and etc. Thank you.
So, assuming that the regulatory lacuna will stay as is, as we say in science, ceteris paribus, and not change, do you also believe that other than the regulatory inertia, and I'm asking you, Khalil Saab and Mekri Saab, there has been some failure on the side of industrial associations such as yourself in not driving the demand side pressure on the regulator, on the ministry, along with the biotech seed companies, to get the biotech seed commercialized and allowed for cultivation locally?
Thank you very much, Adil. Thank you, PAC, for this opportunity. First, I would just like to recall, I would say a takeaway from the conference. There was a comment made earlier. A very big impact we see the political economy have on all the discussions we have here. And for instance, right now, what Khalil Saab just mentioned, the fiasco that we witnessed on the soybean imports, it will be very interesting. I'm sure Adil can do this for the industry, is highlight this on the papers. The impact that this creates on the industry in general, that the government became a deterrent to one of the few success stories we have had in the past on agriculture. Rice and corn are success stories which we need to build on. Unfortunately, that's not the case. These are things where, personally, I think if you shy away as the media, as the policy advisory bodies, by identifying and stressing the need that why it is important to have consistency, to bring that confidence back for people to keep investing. Your question on industry, I'm sure there has been some lacking. Biotech is the answer. Brazil case in point is the biggest. The numbers are astounding if one wants to look at. The opportunities are tremendous. Enabling our poultry sector on the other way around, they should be able to even import in times when we have shortage on corn crops. At the same time, this will enable them to pay same amounts of premiums to the farmers, which a feed or a poultry person sitting in the Gulf is paying in times of distress, in times of shortages. So you're basically strengthening your sectors. Unfortunately, we are right now traveling backwards. I would just also want to add here that the lack of the PPA has a very big stake in this whole sector, but for sure there has been a lack of consistent focus on their part as a whole where we are not seeing the GM thing being resolved. For sure, that is one of the reasons. Yeah.
Khalil Saab, in your view, as we saw in the case of soybean also, the response from the industry comes post facto. Once the government has made up its mind to ban for 5 years, for probably more than 5 years, soybean operated in legally gray space, so to speak. So unless that pull comes from the industry beforehand, especially in the case of maize now, because the yields are now stagnating. Before the moment comes that the yields actually start to decline and we see a shortage in corn, as we have seen in wheat, for example, of the last 2, 3, 5 years, would it not help for the poultry association or the dairy association to drive that?
I think the
From the advocacy angle.
Poultry Association has been knocking on the doors of the government. But unfortunately, they do not provide the ear and they do not take a decision on these things. The issue is that it's very clear. They say it's not allowed, you cannot import this. We've said, why can't we import seed? The government here, various departments of our NARC, PARC, and they've been trying to produce seed, but they have failed to produce seed. For 15 years we are hearing that the work is going on, but unfortunately nothing has come true. There is a simple thing that why can't we import GM seeds? There are a number of countries that are importing seeds and they are relying upon the research that has been done by the exporting country. For instance, US has done extensive work to see whether there is any health issues involved in it. The ministry is also concerned that GM products will introduce mega bugs, mega weeds, which is untrue. I mean, in the US and in many other countries, there are no mega bugs or mega weeds. In fact, the plants are very healthy. So we've been trying to convince the government to allow imports of seed because we cannot produce the seed ourselves. We've seen 15 years, PRC has been working on it. They've shown us data, 100 acres, they've grown soya. Yields have been shown to be very good. I was in the committee of the Agriculture Development Bank, and we had a discussion with the PARC people that why are you not expanding this? He said, we have a mother seed problem. Nobody is prepared to grow mother seed. And how much mother seed do we need to meet the requirements of poultry? Tremendous amount of mother seed. It's not possible for us to grow that. So we can import and start the work. Number of countries, Thailand, Bangladesh, they've all started importing GM seeds for cultivation. Thailand is a big consumer of GM corn, and they are also importing GM soya. So without this, we will not be able to survive. As far as maize concerned, poultry is increasing at the rate of 8 to 10%. If this progress has to be maintained, the maize production has to grow by the same percentage. It has to grow from 15 million metric tons to another another 5 million metric tons to meet the requirements.
Which cannot happen without biotech. We all agree, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On the question of, before we go to the audience for questions, because we are short on time, Safdar Saab, you argued very strongly for export of maize when PPA, the Poultry Association, was arguing against it. While your argument is well understood and taken, do you not believe that Pakistan should go towards value add exports through corn rather than going to primary export, primary commodities export? Because if, as far as my information is concerned, other than Rafan maize, over the past 15, 20 years, we have not seen any major value addition coming in the corn or maize sector. So for example, sugar is demonized everywhere, yet no plant of manufacturing facility for the high fructose corn syrup, which is used as a sugar substitute everywhere around the developed world, has taken place. Maize is a success story. Why is value addition not taking place?
Okay, I can share, so thank you very much for this question, Adil. I can share this much. The quality of corn, the acceptability is very good in the neighboring countries, in the Gulf, Persian Gulf regions, up to Southeast Asia, Red Sea markets, African markets. As much as the only concern remains on the foreign matter side of things, I can share, I'm sure we all know, there is a cornstarch plant which has come up about a year and a half back. There is a super cereal plant as we speak being set up in Karachi. And you would witness a lot of converters coming into Pakistan because we see a lot of these conversions happening in the GCC countries, in Saudi, in Red Sea markets, where they are importing corn from South America and bringing value to those corns. So that only explains the amount of opportunity that you're sitting on, which you've just asked. So just to add to the argument that Mr. Anjum Bhutta Saab brought here, that the poultry industry would need to really edge up to understand that there would be, demand side would be very strong on Pakistan corn crop, other than poultry as well. And there would be premium buyers, which is good news for the farmers, of course, which means it's very promising to build on. But what can be very damaging and discouraging, even in general for the industry, is when the private sector itself steps up and goes to the government asking for to place a ban on a certain commodity, that only puts us all together back, which we don't want, of course. We all know when there is government intervention from a surplus wheat, we are an importing nation, thanks because government is intervening. So anywhere we want a problem, we should ask the government to come in. Corn, like rice, when we go and talk on rice to the government, the only thing we ask them is, don't talk to us, let us work, we are very happy. We don't want you to come here. We are not asking for subsidies. We are the only sector bringing $2 billion exports to Pakistan and without zero subsidies. So don't disturb us. The corn is a similar story, and there is so much more value to come in. And it would need our poultry industry, we would need a lot more cannons on the market, to do that. And that's a very promising one, I must say. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to open the floor for questions from the audience now. Just one short comment. I believe there is cross-sector consensus, at least on the stage, regarding GMO and biotech. So if the audience has any reservations to raise regarding biotech, especially vis-a-vis maize, I'd really like to take those questions first and put them to the panelists. Sure. So I've been told that. So do we have any questions? Especially for biotech, and if not for biotech, then open the floor to everyone.
Well, my question is, you can take with biotech also. One of the biggest problem I understand is the 18th Amendment, where the federal government is moving in one direction, the provincial government moving in another direction. But that, unfortunately, everywhere is happening there, whether it's education or here. So what has to be done on that? Because it is, it's a pride to have 18th Amendment by the states and the federal government. The two ministries, more bureaucrats have been created, because the basic problem in Pakistan is whether it is industry, whether it is agriculture, or whether it is education. It is the bureaucrats who are the biggest problem in this country, because they create bureaucracy, they create inefficiency. And then to add to that are the number of PhD holders in the universities, who has increased dramatically, and their only activity is that they're producing articles, technical journals, articles, but nothing product on the floor. What the country needs is patents and products, not just journal articles. So that is the common problem is there. Plus, obviously, we have the most inefficient
I've taken your questions, sir.
politicians.
I
No, the
understood your
politicians
questions.
who add to that miseries of that. Because GM has been debated for 20, 30 years now. Why
Absolutely.
haven't found a solution? Either way, take it one way. Now, if
Absolutely.
you're a success story, like you said, hybrid cannot
Understood.
take you to GM.
Understood.
So let's go for GM then.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Can I take another question before going back to the panelists?
Assalamu alaikum. This is a question from a farmer. So when I go to the market to find out what kind of seed I need for my product, what kind of fertilizer plan I need, there isn't too much access to information. And all this while I've always thought that it's the seed company to guide me. And now during this conference I've realized it's actually you guys. To understand that what kind of quality you need, what kind of protein you need for your poultry farm, what kind of products are actually being exported. So my question is there a forum where you've got the entire value chain? Like if you look at maize, is there a forum where you have farmers, you have financiers, as well as the people who are actually selling it and utilizing it?
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. First to your question, you need more visibility, and the answer is NMC, Namath Collateral. All of us, stakeholders at all ends, both ends, end to end, we need to lobby for this. We need to advocate on this. This is the biggest strength that needs to come on the market for your end and the end user to have that visibility and the communication. And that is what NMC is doing. And the observation was, of course, that the scale is too small. And somebody very rightly commented, the day you see this visibility on NMC happening, you would be amazed by the amount of investments that would come in. You would be amazed by the amount of confidence you would bring to international markets on your produce, on the potential. On the 18th Amendment, sir, the only comment I would want to make is, this is my personal, maybe I'm wrong, I think it is very sad that we, the people, I don't know if it's the majority or not, for me, I think 18th Amendment is a blessing for the people of Pakistan. It is for us to capitalize on that. It's sad that we see this, or we have been made to believe that it is a curse. With this, I would leave it to Bhutta Saab, expert there, please.
Thank you. On first question, sir, GMO has been approved in Pakistan in 2009 for cotton. Now 100% cotton grown in Punjab and Pakistan is GMO. And there is no question of GMO not approved. We have the Biosafety Committee and we have the Biosafety Laws 2005. Now we have the reformed rules approved by the Department of Plant Protection. Question here, according to the soybean, I'm also soybean supporter because we have 5 major crops in Punjab province. The corn, rice, sugarcane, wheat, and maize. Rice, cotton, maize, wheat, cane. All are exhaustive in nature. No crop is restorative. No crop is returning any energy to the soil. But money makes the mayor go. I am graduated from the university after PhD in 93. We have seen the soybean trial at that time in the university. But soybean was not competitive with the other profitable crops. Once you have to make that crop more profitable, then the farmer will go because money makes the mayor go. You go, this year, we are trying to promote corn by giving 5,000 rupee per acre subsidy for 100,000 acres. Because we have a plan in Punjab province, we have national emergency plan on wheat and rice and sugarcane, on oil seeds, and federal government and the cotton as well. In oil seeds, we are giving 5,000 rupees subsidy to the farmers who are growing canola, sunflower, and 2,000 rupees for the sesame crop. You have seen the sesame crop? In past 4 years, 20,000 to 120,000 in 4 years. We have more than 100 billion rupee export of sesame from Pakistan. This was because of these national activities. The farmers are shifting to the climate smart crop. We are producing mung bean, we are producing sesame, we are producing the crop. Nothing, I'm basically extension agent, I'm son of a farmer. I don't think the we are done doing nothing for past 30 years. We have almost excelled in everything, every crop. We are imbibing the technologies from all over the world. We are importing 30 billion rupees seeds annually in Punjab, in Pakistan. Why we're not importing the soybean seeds? This is the issue. I am testing soybean in corn, in mung bean for past 4 years. I can share the data. This is a problem that we have to have a soybean promotion policy. The poultry come forward and give a price equal to the corn. The farmer will go with soybean. This is the case. And my humble request to the poultry industry will be, think alternatives. We have the canola meal, we have sorghum meal, we have oats, we have millets. We are promoting the road grass, we are promoting the Bombasa grass, we are promoting the Beccaria grass, we are promoting the lucerne grass. The world is consuming poultry with the lucerne pellets. We have to see how the silage industry, how the poultry industry to shift after 5 or 10 years. We are in support of every industry, specifically the poultry industry, as I'm basically here for corn crop. My request will be that Punjab is 31 million acres in total. 22 we are growing in Rabi, 20 we are growing in Kharif. And in Kharif crop, we have crop competition of 4 crops. Very little space in the province to increase horizontally. If we are growing soybean, that has to replace the low profitable crop. The cotton was the problem. Farmers not shifting to the corn because they have no water. They have shifted to sesame. They have shifted to mung. You see the Dera Ghazi Khan areas, situation is changed. The second question of the ma'am, we have the Pakistan Standard Quality Control Authority working in the Ministry of Science and Technology. They have the standards approved at national level for all the fertilizers. The inspectors working in the provinces are getting the samples from pesticides and fertilizers. For the seed, we have the National Act. And we have any complaint, we have the rules and laws to take action. Last 2 years, we are working on the urea overpricing, and everybody say that we are going with the urea, we are going with the supervisory sale, and we have over 1,000 FIRs. And these are the issues. If you have problem, call to us, and we can help even in the Sindh province. Thank you.
कि मेरे दिल से सवाल निकल रहा है, इंग्लिश में निकलेगा तो ज़रा सा ख़राब हो जाएगा सवाल. तो डीजी साहब, मैं आपसे मेरा सवाल ये है कि आप इस बात पर मुकम्मल कन्विंस हैं कि जीएम क्रॉप जो है वो पाकिस्तान में होनी चाहिए, उसके बगैर हमारा गुजारा नहीं है. पंजाब जो है वो पूरे इंडस्ट्री की, इसकी एग्रीकल्चर की जो है सबसे बड़ा मरकज़ है. अगर आप इस बात पर कन्विंस हैं तो हमारी फूड सिक्योरिटी मिनिस्ट्री इस बात पर क्यों नहीं कन्विंस होती? हम टकरे मार मार के, सर मार मार के रह गए, हमारे माल जो है वापस भी चला गया, और प्लस ये कि जो माल आने थे पाइपलाइन में थे वो सब कैंसिल हो के पोल्ट्री इंडस्ट्री भी हमारी तबाह हो गई, और उसके साथ साथ हमारी एग्रीकल्चर इंडस्ट्री भी तबाह हो जाएगी. अगर पोल्ट्री ने कॉर्न को कंज्यूम ना किया तो अगले साल कॉर्न का खरीदार भी नहीं मिलेगा.
जी, आप बिल्कुल सही फरमा रहे हैं जी. पहले जो आपकी ऑब्जर्वेशन है उसके ऊपर मैं कहूँगा यस, तो दूसरी के ऊपर मैं कहूँगा पास.
I think we need to really increase our agriculture production. And I would say GM would be an essential inclusion in the chain. We can identify that progressively we'll have to go GM cultivation of maize. We'll have to go for GM cultivation of soybeans. I don't see why we cannot, BT cotton is allowed. People are consuming milk from animals that have been fed GM. Why can't poultry consume GM? It's mind-boggling. We had a discussion with the Ministry of Climate Change, and the secretary there mentioned that when girls consume chicken that have consumed GM soybean meal, they grow mustaches and they get puberty very early. So I told her that my mother got married at the age of 14 and she bore a child at the age of 15, my elder brother. What are we talking about? If that is the way we think about GM, it's very difficult to move. But I would like to suggest that we must go GM. At least soybeans must be GM. We should import the seeds. Thailand, Bangladesh, they are all importing seeds. And the countries that are exporting, they've done enough work on them to see that there is no carcinogenicity, there is no beta. Huh?
There's no need to reinvent the wheel.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already there. So why can't we just start importing and increase our productions? Maize export are not banned. They're allowed. The Poultry Association is not averse to export of maize. But at the same time, import of maize attracts 51% tariff. Import duties, additional import duties, regulatory duty, sales tax. Now, these should be removed. There should be an open field. Whenever there is a shortage of corn in the country, we should be allowed to be imported. And we should export. Export is a very good thing. That's the only thing we can do. Agriculture produce has to be exported. The question was value addition. I think poultry is adding tremendous value to corn in the form of meat, in the form of eggs, which are also exportable. It is Rafan and poultry industry that provided the pull for growth in maize. Okay. Time is over.
We had a wonderful discussion. I would like to summarize the discussion with the following 3 points of consensus. The biotech technology, especially for maize and soybean, needs to be commercialized. One addition from me, the advocacy groups, including Pakistan Business Council, needs to do more to proactively engage in advocacy for biotech commercialization. And number 3, there needs to be open trade, both for export of corn and other commodities, as well as remove the prohibitive tariffs on import side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all the participants. Thank you very much, Adil. That was another interesting discussion post-lunch. I would like to thank Mr. Khalil Sattar, CEO of KNN, along with Mr. Safdar Mekri, MD Cornwall, Pakistan, Dr. Anjum Buttar, DG Agri Extension, Government of Punjab. Thank you very much for being with us. And finally, moderator, Mr. Adil Mansoor from the Business Recorder. Thank you very much. A very interesting discussion indeed. And many of our questions were indeed answered through it. As you may have figured, into a bit of gardening. I've also kept poultry in the past, so I know a little bit about that. And I have my own set of questions that I will come and ask you as well. But moving on, since we're short of time, we have postponed the session for tea because we would rather not take any breaks before that. And moving on, our next parallel discussion session here will be, in this hall, the discussion will be on reversing Pakistan's trade deficit through agri-commodities. In this session, we'll be joined by Mr. Zafar Masud, President of the Bank of Punjab, Mr. Zubair Motiwala, CEO, Trade Development Authority of Pakistan, Ms. Maheen Rahman, CEO, Infra Zamin, I hope I said that correctly, Mr. Nasir Ali Shah Bukhari, financier and progressive farmer. And our moderator for this session will be Mr. Ehsan Malik, CEO of Pakistan Business Council. Please give the participants and our moderator a warm welcome for their discussion on reversing Pakistan's trade deficit through agri-commodities. This is, I think, a discussion that every Pakistani would like to listen to. Chief Rakhiye. Sir? Mike. Sir. And I may add, while our participants make their way up here, that in the hall next to us is a discussion on tech and the future of agriculture. Another very interesting topic. The participants in that discussion will be Dr. Iqrar Ahmed Khan, Vice Chancellor, UAF, Mr. Nauman Khan, CEO, Thal Industries, Ms. Kulsum Ali, Head of Partnerships at Pula Advisors, and Mr. Muzaffar Mangi, the CEO of Farmdar. That session will be conducted by Mr. Kashif Thanvi, Chief Operating Officer at Recult. I hope I said that right too. But for now, in this hall, our discussion, the topic of discussion is reversing Pakistan's trade deficit through agri-commodities. I leave it up to Mr. Ehsan Malik to conduct the session.
Okay, so a very warm welcome to everybody. I thought he was trying to sell you to move to the other room, but I'm so glad to see that you're all here. We really have a very distinguished panel here. Each of them require no introduction, so I'm not going to spend any time introducing any one of them. You know them all very well. I'm actually just going to go straight into shaping the conversation and then invite them, each one of them, to talk about what is relevant. The theme of this particular panel is reversing the trade deficit. I would say that before you even start talking about reversing the trade deficit, you've got to ensure food security. Yes, from a trade deficit point of view, we have imports of about 80 billion. I'm talking of unconstrained imports, not the crunched imports, which we are facing today. So under normal circumstances, we import about 80 billion. We export approximately 30 billion. That leaves us short by 50 billion. Yes, the remittances make up about 30, but we are still short on the current account by 20 billion. Now that's significant. Contributing to the imports of 80 billion, as I mentioned earlier, is approximately 9 billion of food imports. So this is without cotton, but if you add cotton, that's another 2. So that's 11 billion. Expressed as a percentage of the 80 billion, that is significant. It's about 14-15%. So there is a huge opportunity. But more important than that, in my opinion, is the fact that the growth of our 5 major crops at 0.6% per annum for the last few years is significantly below the growth of our population. Even if you add the other crops, not the 5 major crops, you basically add another 0.2 or 0.3%. It is still short. Only by livestock do we actually get up to about 2.5%. Yeah. So the fact is, our staple is wheat, and if you're short of wheat, no amount of animal produce is going to make up for that. So there is a significant need for us to boost the production, the productivity, indeed also the quality of our major crops in particular, but of course also to concurrently work on the other non-major crops as well as livestock-related items. My first question is going to be to you, Zafar Masud Saab. So welcome. I think all of you know that he is the president of Bank of Punjab. Bank of Punjab is owned by the government of Punjab, yeah, the province of Punjab. Am I correct, right? Okay. So when we were in another session earlier, we had somebody from HBL, and they were telling us of the great work they're doing. I'm sure Bank of Punjab is doing equally great work, if not better. But the subtle difference here is that the HBL is a commercial bank. You are owned by the government. So you could potentially have a developmental role as well as, of course, commercial role. I just want you to take a little bit of time to talk about what are you doing, what can you do better, what gets in the way, both from the government policy point of view, but indeed also from the way that farmers react, and focusing particularly on, to the extent possible, direct funding of farmers, and also of the, we've heard earlier in the earlier sessions that there's significant scope for mechanization, bringing technology, and for service providers. And of course, they do need capital. So over to you.
Thank you, Malik Saab. Thank you very much. Thank you, PSC, for organizing this very important conference. It's important in many ways than one, starting from obviously the food security piece. From the topic of this particular session, you talked about $11 billion. Perhaps this year that number may be higher, given the fact that there's been a serious compromise on the cotton crop post flooding. Plus, if I were to narrow down the current account deficit or trade deficit for the food itself, that would be even larger this time round, because the rice product, which is the only one that we export, has also kind of compromised. So having said that, it's a very important session, but more importantly, to realize what agriculture brings to the table as far as this country is concerned. We are, Malik Sahab, a victim of our own narrative, by the way. Narrative that has been built over a period of time. And that it's about time that we reverse that narrative and put things in context. So from Green Revolution in 1960s to as recently as a couple of decades ago, there has been a campaign, a serious campaign that since agriculture merely contributes 20% to the direct GDP of the country, therefore the importance is not there for this sector as such. And we promoted by our policies and all, mainly service sector, which we are a big beneficiary of, but unfortunately, holistically speaking, being an agrarian society, if the agriculture is not taking off, we will get, irrespective of how much support we'll get, we'll also get our business model impaired on the way. So we did a research lately in Bank of Punjab, and we came to this conclusion that the contribution of agriculture using backward and forward linkages that ADB has developed, the contribution is 46.4%. And that correlates well with the, employment share of agriculture in the total workforce that we have. And that shows the importance of this sector overall. But unfortunately, for a host of reasons, and I'll touch upon those reasons as well, we as banks are not playing our due role. Some reasons are structural in nature, and the others perhaps related to the fact that we are not perhaps geared up or trained or have the necessary expertise to be in this specialized sector or contribute as much as we could. So looking at the numbers, talking about agriculture in the total private sector has been stagnant for 5% at 638 billion rupees for the last 3, 4, 5 years. And that number is squeezing. And by the way, the private sector itself, nothing to write home about, because that itself now has squeezed down to 17% of the total deposits of the banks. So therefore, and within that also, the 60% of the total credit goes to large farmers, which is 50 acres and above. On the other hand, if you look at the data, I'm trying not to repeat the data which you've already heard in the previous sessions. I heard Salim Raza Saab's session, and I had to then cull my own data because a lot of things he's already talked about, which I also wanted to share with you, since it's already been done and we are tight on time as well. So I'm just focused on that data points which are relevant and perhaps unique for you, which you haven't heard in the previous sessions. So 89% of the total farms are less than 12.5 acres. And within that, 5 acres, which is marginal farm, is actually 64%. So for commercial banks to undertake any aggressive agriculture proposition with this kind of size of farms is impossible. Their cost doesn't allow it. They don't have the right mindset to deal with these kind of small farmers. And these are the ones, that's why your entire agriculture sector, as far as the financing is concerned, is getting a beating. So the starting point should be, and Salim Saab talked about it in the morning, that, interestingly enough, China and India has even smaller, farm sizes, but what is making the difference and lacking in Pakistan are the cooperatives. And this cooperative business is something which actually, interestingly enough, is part and parcel of our society as well. We are a very fragmented society, divided in castes, in religions, and we really don't want to work inclusively at all. We don't want to work with each other. We just want to operate in our own groups, and hence no cooperative in agriculture either. And then this whole equation, if I have to scale it up a bit, then that is very well reflected in the case of banks also, microfinance institutions as well, insurance companies, and certain government policies are also there, are the culprits in this whole equation. So everybody has to work together. More inclusive effort is required in order to make sure that we will be able to make some kind of headway and difference. And regulator, of course, as well. On our part, as BOP, by the way, another data point which is very important about agriculture is that 46.4% is the direct and indirect contribution, plus the multiplier effect on the GDP is 1.8 times. So 100 rupee contribution, direct contribution of agriculture sector in GDP has 180 rupee impact on the GDP. So having said that, on our part as Bank of Punjab, we have increased our portfolio in the last 35% in the last 3 years. I'm not very proud of what we are doing. I think we need to do more. I must compliment HBL. They're doing a great job, and they're doing it for the last decade or so. In fact, the gentleman who deserves the credit of it is in the other session moderating it, is Kashif Thanvi. But they've done a fabulous job. We're trying to catch up and learning from them. But I think we are doing a decent job as well. 2-3 things that we've done, we're very proud of. One is that collaboration with microfinance institutions, not the banks. Banks will have similar constraints as well. But microfinance institutions have helped us in getting to these farmers closer, extending the credit in a more robust manner, and going another step on doing the hand-holding to get rid of this middleman as well. The second one is the electronic warehouse receipt. I'm sure HPL would have talked about, they were partners with us on this. We have one of the largest shareholders. I think we are bigger than HBL when it comes to electronic warehouse receipt. And then area, yield, index insurance. In straightforward terms, it's corporate. I know Amin is laughing. It's a mouthful. When we were, suggesting the name for this product, I was opposing it. It was too mouthful, too complex. It's crop yield insurance, essentially. Again, a path-breaking product, and we were partners with HBL, TPL, Pula, and Score in that. I think that other banks have to take a lead also, and as a group, we have to go together with the other players as well to make a difference here.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. You've mentioned, obviously, that there's a certain element of risk involved in extending credit, particularly to small farmers. Yeah, I want to turn to you, Maheen, because your business is about de-risking. Of course, it's not about agriculture investment, but it's infrastructure investment. But our agriculture in Pakistan also sadly lacks infrastructure. A significant part of our horticulture gets destroyed because of the poor cold chain. Our meat exports are limited to the Middle East because we can only chill the meat. We can't freeze the meat. If we could freeze the meat, we could, spread our exports a bit wider. Nemat Collateral is a great initiative that's been started, but there are a limited number of warehouses. We heard from another session that 14 or 15% of the wheat that is produced, even when we have a bumper crop, gets destroyed. So there's a lack of safe storage facilities, safe silos. And I was wondering, Maheen, if you could touch on whether you have any plans or any solutions for de-risking. I know you don't extend credit yourself, but you provide guarantees, right? So go ahead.
Sure, thank you. So we've tried to address some of the agri issues in two ways, and we think there's actually two components to this problem. One is the storage component, which you're talking about, which is a more micro-level component in terms of building and developing the warehousing infrastructure to carry through. But there's another very important component which Zafar Saab also alluded to, and that's the flood protection component. Because the reason we're sort of seeing the higher food bill this year is simply because we lost a lot of crop during the floods. And unless we address the flood component or the flood protection component, it is hard to build out infrastructure that will be resilient to future climate events. So what has Infrazamin done on this front? So two levels of engagement. One is at the federal government level, the other is the provincial government level. On the flood side, we have had conversations with both the Sindh province as well as the planning ministry and agricultural ministry in the federal government to see if the flood protection plan can be updated and if we can contribute to financing whatever part of it that we are able to take up, whether that comes in the forms of guarantees, which is risk sharing, or seeing how else to mobilize financing around that. And I think that's going to be quite critical because if we again face a situation where we have not created the barriers or created the flood protection elements, then it doesn't really matter what we do on the warehousing or the seed or any other side. So that's one area we are engaging in. But I think a lot more needs to come through from the government in terms of developing that plan for financing and for implementation, which is when the banks take over and we take over. The other piece is the warehousing. And that, I'll be very honest, has been a struggle for many reasons. One is, and when we had discussions with Nemat almost about a year ago on this, we offered at the time to provide risk-sharing arrangements with banks that were working under the Nemat collateral framework for upgrading and building new warehouses. And this was going to be across Pakistan in the areas that Nemat actually operates in. And it turns out that when we made that proposal to Nemat, it was received very well. But when it came down to the farmers or the people who actually owned warehouses that needed to be upgraded, there was a tremendous reluctance to raise financing whether it was debt or any other kind of financing, even with risk-sharing arrangements in place, because there was a general fear of debt, there was a fear of interest rates, there was a fear of the formal sort of banking system. But I do think that without that piece of financing, it's going to be hard to upgrade across the country. And that willingness really needs to come from the farmer himself in schemes such as this, which we are continuing to explore, but which so far the receptivity from the market has not been strong. Which is an interesting point, and one of the pushbacks that we often get is, oh, the cost of financing is too high, interest rates are at 20% or so. But actually the farmer will borrow from the informal sector and the microfinance sector at almost double that. So it is an odd dichotomy that we see, but without some kind of risk-sharing arrangements, you would be unlikely to find banks to be heavy lenders in this regard. So we have offered that element. The other thing which I think is a bit more promising is we're working with the Agricultural Ministry for a Punjab-wide warehousing solution feasibility report, which we've just started looking at, and we intend to, if we believe this is going to be a good, strong project, and this will actually create a network of warehouses that are, very high-quality warehouses all across the Punjab region. And that project has actually been on the shelf for a number of years. It just hasn't had the right feasibilities done around it. So we are looking to actually fund that feasibility in the initial phases. We take about 3 to 6 months to complete that feasibility. And then we see how we can bring that to a financing solution in the market, whether it is an equity we need or it is just pure lending, or if some risk frameworks also need to be put in place. So we are trying to look at things in various silos. But at the same time, I think there has to be a general mindset shift among the farmer community to wanting to upgrade their own sort of warehousing facilities and arrangements.
Okay, great, thank you. Nasir Shah, I mean, apart from the fact that you have an investment and a banking background, you're also a progressive farmer. And you actually, I believe, are trying to raise a whole forest, which will take 7 years, I believe, before you can start harvesting teak. But my question really is, as much as it is about that, a longer term sort of view, is also to do with something that Zafar touched on, cooperative farming. But can you try and address the opportunity that lies or the challenges for that matter, on cooperative farming, on contract farming, as well as corporate farming? And when you talk about corporate farming, can you then also talk about the possibility of corporate farming where the farms are not owned by Pakistanis, but they are meant for export?
Thank you very much. आजकल हम सब कोर्टों की तरफ देख रहे हैं फैसले आने के लिए, तो मैंने भी फैसला किया कि आज मैं कोर्ट की तरफ देखूंगा जस्टिस जहीर जमाली साहब के फैसले पर कि सारी ऑफिशियल कम्युनिकेशन हमारी उर्दू ज़ुबान में हो. तो विद ऑल ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट्स, अंग्रेज़ी में कहना पड़ा, बहरहाल नहीं, मेहरबानी, थैंक यू. तो आपके सवाल में जो है बहुत 3-4 चीज़ें जो हैं वो मुझे नज़र आ रही हैं. जो यहाँ फार्मर बैठे हैं वो सब मुझसे इत्तेफाक करेंगे कि जो एग्रीकल्चर है, जो ज़राअत है, वो एक नुकसानदेह कारोबार है. जब तक हम ज़राअत को नफ़ा बख्श नहीं बनाएंगे, उस वक्त तक आप ज़राअत से कोई सरप्लसेस या यानी जो आप बरामदात कर सकें, उसके लिए आपके पास कोई और यानी क्रॉप्स मौजूद हों, ये बड़ा मुश्किल है. मिसाल आपको मैं दूं, जो आपका बुआई का सीज़न है गंदम की, वो है नवंबर में. जब फैसला करना है आपके काश्तकार ने कि वो इस फसल को लगाए या ना लगाए, उसकी जो कॉस्ट है, जो प्रोडक्शन के लिए उसको जो यानी बीज चाहिए, उसकी कीमत बढ़ रही है. उसकी जो जितनी दूसरी यानी खादें हैं, उसकी कीमत बढ़ रही है. डीज़ल की कीमत बढ़ रही है. उसकी जो है इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की कीमत बढ़ रही है, और उसको पता नहीं मुझे क्या कीमत मिलेगी. और मार्च के महीने में आके हम ऐलान करते हैं कि हम उसको 3,900 रुपये के ऊपर जो है वो उसको कीमत अदा करेंगे. 3,900 के ऊपर भी आज अगर कोई काश्तकार कैलकुलेट करता है तो उसको ये नफ़ा बख्श नहीं है, रो रहे हैं। आज इस वक्त काश्तकार जिन्होंने गंदम लगाई हुई है रो रहे हैं कि हम कैसे पूरा करेंगे। इसी तरह से आपकी जो ये दूसरी पैदावार है, आपकी जो तेल जिससे निकलता है, आज अभी जो है सीज़न ख़त्म हुआ है जिसमें लोगों ने जिसको हम मस्टर्ड कहते हैं वो उसकी पैदावार की है, सब रो रहे हैं, मार्केट के अंदर उनको कीमत ही नहीं मिल रही। हाँ, साइड की दूसरी छोटी छोटी फसलें, वैसा तिल है, तिल 20,000 रुपये मन हो गया, लोग उसमें खुश हो गए, या और कुछ इसी तरह से दूसरी। गन्ने वाले भी जो है वो भी परेशान है। आज मैंने कॉटन का सीड ख़रीदा है, पिछले महीने उसका भाव जो था वो 1200 रुपये था। आज मुझे जो हमारी मुल्तान में कॉटन रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट है उन्होंने 2000 रुपये में दिया है। 800 रुपये एक महीने में जो है कीमत बढ़ गई। तो एक तो इस प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी जो है वो काश्तकार के लिए इंश्योर करना बहुत ज़रूरी है। दूसरी बात है कि टेक्नोलॉजी का ये आलम है हमारे पास कि माफ़ कीजिएगा थोड़े से नंबर में आपकी तरफ डाल दूँगा कि वो जो हमारी 85% जो पानी की ज़रूरियात अंडरग्राउंड पानी से पूरी हो रही हैं, जिसको हम ट्यूबवेल का पानी कहते हैं, उसकी जो तकरीबन कोई 55 बिलियन क्यूबिक मीटर, और उसको हासिल करने के लिए हम जो डीज़ल इस्तेमाल करते हैं वो 2.5 मिलियन टन, जो अबाउट $1 बिलियन की हमें डीज़ल की इसके लिए इंपोर्ट करनी पड़ती है। और हम इससे जनरेट क्या करते हैं, 11 बिलियन किलोग्राम ऑफ कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड। अगर हम सिर्फ इसे कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड को एलिमिनेट करने की पोजीशन में आ जाएं तो आपके पास जो है पहली बात समझिए कि दुनिया सारी में इस वक्त कार्बन क्रेडिट का रेट है, उसकी वैल्यू जो है उस अवेलेबल कार्बन क्रेडिट की आलमोस्ट अबाउट आज के हिसाब से $1.1 बिलियन बनती है। तो ये एक सर्कुल है जिसको अगर हम सब समझ के कर सकेंगे तो हम उसका बेनिफिट ले सकते हैं। फिर जो टेक्नोलॉजी की जब ज़रूरत पड़ती है तो हमारा सब लोग कहते हैं जी पानी जो है उसका बहुत बड़ा मसला है। 22 बिलियन क्यूबिक मीटर की हमें स्टोरेज चाहिए, और ये पाकिस्तान में हम आज से नहीं 1950 से सर पकड़ के बैठे हैं कि डैम कैसे बनाएं, और जज्बाती हो जाते हैं कि जी डैम हमारे बनने चाहिए नहीं बनने चाहिए। दुनिया ने उससे तरक्की कर ली है, नई टेक्नोलॉजी आ गई है। आयोनाइजेशन से ₹1 पर क्यूबिक मीटर की कॉस्ट के ऊपर चोलिस्तान के डेजर्ट को ग्रीन करने के लिए इस्लामिया यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ भावलपुर ने रिसर्च शुरू की हुई है, जिसमें वो ये करना चाहते हैं कि आयोनाइजेशन से बरसात ले आए, ताकि आपकी जो एक तो अंडरग्राउंड वाटर की जो आपकी रिक्वायरमेंट है वो कम हो, और वो कोई 5.5 बिलियन क्यूबिक मीटर पानी जो है उसको वो इंश्योर करना चाहते हैं। ब्यूरोक्रेसी फाइलों पे दबा के बैठ गई, काम ही नहीं हो पा रहा। 2 साल से प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है और हम बैठे हुए हैं। तो ये जो है मैं इश्यूज़ के हवाले से सिर्फ नहीं बात करना चाहता, बल्कि बताना ये चाहता हूँ कि टेक्नोलॉजी अवेलेबल है, उस टेक्नोलॉजी को हमें यूज़ करना है। आज हम जो है वो नेशन ऑफ व्हाट्सएप बन गए। पूरे पाकिस्तान में आज एक वो जो है सबको मेरा ख्याल है रिसीव हो चुका होगा वो लेटर की कॉपी के जी पाकिस्तान आर्मी को 45,000 एकड़ ज़मीन जो है वो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पंजाब ने दे दी। लोग समझे बूझे बगैर उसके ऊपर कमेंट कर रहे हैं। यार वो है जॉइंट वेंचर एग्रीमेंट, जॉइंट वेंचर मैनेजमेंट एग्रीमेंट। फ़ौज ने ज़मीन जो है वो उनके साथ एक नया विस्टास खोल दिया है प्रोविंसेस के लिए, क्योंकि 18th अमेंडमेंट के बाद सारी ज़मीन जो है वो तो प्रोविंसेस के पास है। आप यहाँ कॉरपोरेट फार्मिंग फेल हो चुकी, आपके यहाँ कॉरपोरेट फार्मिंग जो है वो अभी तक शुरू नहीं हो सकी। तो उसके लिए उन्होंने एक रास्ता खोला कि प्रोविंसेस जिनके पास लैंड है और उस लैंड को वो प्रोडक्टिव यूज़ में ला सकें, उन्होंने जॉइंट वेंचर ये किया कि जी 40% जो है जो भी इसकी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी होगी वो प्रोविंस को जाएगी, 20% जो उसकी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी होगी इस मुल्क में, क्योंकि R&D के नाम की कोई चीज़ नहीं है, लिहाजा उसको फंडिंग करेंगे 20% की R&D के लिए, एग्रीमेंट में रिटर्न है। और बाकी 40% जो अगर इनकम होगी तो वो फौज उसको दोबारा रीएम्प्लॉय करेगी फर्दर ग्रोथ के लिए। तो अब आप देखिए कि जो का पूरा एक कॉरपोरेट सेक्टर जो है वो इसके लिए रास्ता खुल गया। अब सारे प्रोविंसेस जो है वो कॉरपोरेट सेक्टर के साथ जाके जो है काम कर सकेंगे। जो हमारे यहाँ फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स की तरफ से जो है इंटरेस्ट दिया गया, उनको सऊदीज़ को क्या ये 1,80,000 एकड़ ज़मीन بلوچستان گورنمنٹ جو ہے وہ ان کے ساتھ جب سے یہ ان کا سوال اٹھا ہے وہ مستقلاً بات چیت کر رہے ہیں. آپ کو پتہ ہے وہ جو کچی کنال ہے اس کی وجہ سے خوزدار تک اس نے آنا ہے, پورا بلوچستان جو ہے اس کا وہ حصہ سرسبز لہلہانے لگے گا اور وہ پاکستان کی نئی فوڈ باسکٹ ہوگی. تو آج کے قانون کے مطابق سے آپ کے جو پی 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 کے جو طریقہ کار ہیں کام کرنے کے, اس میں وہ کام نہیں کر سکتے, لہذا آپ کو نئی لیجسلیشن کی ضرورت ہے. تو فوج نے یہ ایک راستہ دیا ہے کہ آپ پروونسز کو شیئر ہولڈر بنائیں اور ان کے ساتھ مل کے جو ہے فارمز کو مینیج کریں. 2500 ایکڑ کا پہلا کارپوریٹ فارم جو ہے وہ ابھی خانیوال میں قائم کیا گیا ہے, جس میں کہ وہ موسٹ ماڈرن قسم کی پروڈکشن میتھڈز جو ان کو امپلائی کیا گیا ہے, اسمارٹ فارمنگ کے میتھڈز کو استعمال کیا گیا ہے. میری نظر میں وہ ایک 1971 کے بعد پہلا کارپوریٹ فارم ہے, اور ایسے کارپوریٹ فارمز جو ہیں ان کی ہمیں شدید ضرورت ہے. بڑی بڑی جتنی ہماری کارپوریٹس ہیں ان کے آپ نام لیتے ہیں تو فلانے میاں صاحب نے جو ہے وہ فلانا ڈیری فارم لگا لیا, اس میں 10,000 گائیں ہیں, انہوں نے بھی اس کی فائننسنگ کی ہوگی کچھ کی, تو فلانے نے یہ لگا لیا. وہ سب اپنے اپنے کام میں جو ہے مور اور لیس کامیاب ہیں. کیوں نہیں ایگریکلچر میں جو ہم سرپلسز کریٹ کر سکتے ہیں ان کو ہم شامل کریں اور ان کو اس قسم کا راستہ دیں, کہ کیونکہ زمین تو صوبوں کے پاس ہے, تو اب زمین جو ہے وہ صوبوں سے نکلے گی, کارپوریٹس کو آئے گی اس طرح سے, تو اس سے پروڈکٹیوٹی بڑھ سکتی ہے اور آپ کے پاس سرپلسز جو ہیں وہ ہو سکتے ہیں.
شکریہ جی.
میں صرف یہ ناصر بھائی بائی دا وے میرے بڑے بھائی ہیں, تو آئی ایم جسٹ ڈکلیئرنگ مائی انٹرسٹ, ایکچولی بڑے بھائی ہیں. 2 گزارشات جو ناصر بھائی نے ابھی کی ہیں, ایک تو یہ جو انہوں نے فوجی والی بات کی ہے, دس از این ہاربنجر آف برنگنگ ان فورن ڈائریکٹ انویسٹمنٹ فرام آؤٹ سائڈ. So there is a discussion going on behind the scenes between the, by the way وہ آرمی نہیں ہے, وہ فوجی گروپ ہے, وہ بھی کوپریٹ گروپ ہے جس طرح ناصر بھائی کہہ رہے ہیں. So that the فوجی group is already in talks with couple of GCC countries to bring in that foreign investment. This is the starting point for it. They want to see whether this whole system would work or not. So great move there. اور وہ بالکل صحیح کہہ رہے ہیں, میں صبح سے دیکھ رہا ہوں وہ اس کو ٹوٹلی لوگوں نے مسکنسٹرو کیا ہوا ہے. دوسری جو ایک گزارش تھی وہ یہ تھی کہ جس طرح ناصر صاحب فرما رہے تھے کہ ٹیکنالوجی کا استعمال اینڈ along with that the access to funding. ہم نے ایک انالیسس یہ کیا ہے کہ جو پروڈکٹیوٹی کا فرق ہے بٹوین دوز فارمز جن کے پاس ٹیکنالوجی کی ایکسیس ہے اور ان کے پاس ایکسیس ٹو کیپٹل ہے, ان کی پروڈکٹیوٹی 40% زیادہ ہے دین دوز فارمز وچ ڈونٹ ہیو دس.
نہیں بالکل ٹھیک ہے. جو میں نے اس پہ ریئیکشن دیکھا ہے وہ دیٹ از مور فرام اے پرائیویٹ سیکٹر پوائنٹ آف ویو, کہ فوجی گروپ کو کیوں یہ دیا گیا موقع, کیوں نہیں دیا گیا پرائیویٹ سیکٹر کو, کیونکہ پرائیویٹ سیکٹر بھی انویسٹمنٹ کرنے کو تیار ہو سکتا تھا اگر ان سے پوچھا جاتا. تو چلے بٹ دیٹس لانگر ڈسکشن اینڈ وی کوڈ ہیو دیٹ لیٹر. سو Zafar Sahab is the industry leader, I would say. I think there are very few posts that have not been held by him, whether it's a Karachi chamber or any other chamber. He's been on multiple task groups of the government of Pakistan, and he runs a very successful export-oriented business. Yet, he has volunteered to be the head of a Trade Development Authority of Pakistan. سو ظاہر صاحب آپ سے ہم یہ سمجھنا چاہتے ہیں کہ کہاں آپ پوٹینشیل دیکھ رہے ہیں. جو چیزیں ہم پروڈیوس بھی کر لیتے ہیں وہ زیادہ تر کموڈیٹیز ہی رہتی ہیں, اس پہ برانڈنگ جو ہے وہ بہت لمیٹڈ ہوتی ہے, پیکیجنگ جو ہے وہ میڈیوکر قسم کی ہوتی ہے. اگر آپ بیرون ملک چلے جائیں, خاص طور پہ ویسٹ میں چلے جائیں, مڈل ایسٹ میں تو پھر بھی کچھ ہمارے پروڈکٹس نظر آ جاتے ہیں, پر ویسٹ کے اندر ہمارے برانڈ کے پیکیج پروڈکٹس ہیں وہ نظر نہیں آتے. تو اس سلسلے میں آپ کیا کر رہے ہیں؟ اور سیکنڈلی کیا آپ کا کوئی ایسا پلان ہے کہ جو اسٹینڈرڈس کی ریکوائرمنٹ ہے میٹ کرنے کی, ویدر سی فوڈ کے لیے ہو یا ویجیٹیبلس کے لیے ہو یا فروٹس کے لیے ہو, اس پہ بھی کیا آپ کا کوئی ریمٹ ہے یا آپ کو سپورٹ کریں گے؟
Thank you very much. First of all, جو آپ نے کہا TDAP, I've taken this assignment only to see that since 75 years we are talking and talking. We actually have no policy. اور اگر میں آپ اس کو ٹوٹل کو دیکھیں, what is your trade account? It's so simple to calculate. I mean, آپ کا 30-31 بلین کا your export, 30 بلین کا ہوم ریمیٹنسز اور 80 بلین کی امپورٹ. سمپل. $15-18 بلین ہر سال کا ہم کو خسارہ ہوتا ہے.
कोई पान की दुकान भी नहीं चल सकती with the way we are going. And what is happening today is actually boiling down of things coming in. I've been always been, working when I was there in Board of Investment, Sindh. I've worked a lot for the agriculture. But I've seen that appetite is not there for that modernization. You need an appetite. I tried to bring in the drip irrigation, the American sprinklers, seed bank, and what they call it, saplings, crossbreeding. I did everything for that. But nobody actually undertakes this. Agriculturists and the farmers are not interested into this. Or they don't want to go leave the traditional way of cultivation. I mean, I tried to hold those seminars, went there in those areas and told them that, look, if you just use drip irrigation, you save 70% water and 30% more yield. Is it a bad idea to do that? I said, okay, from my government side, I will fund it and I'll make a pilot farm. We did that too. But it never worked. The biggest problem in this country is that we never had land reforms. And that land reforms are there. I can quote you one incident that we were in UAE for this kind of a food exhibition. And then there, there were pulp plant manufacturers. And they were saying that, you people don't have the pulp plants so that you're selling your fruits at a very, very low price. You have to wait for a time when the prices go high and the pulps are the right. We've got guavas, mango, and tomato. These are the three areas where you can use that area on a season-wise, and you can just make pulp out of it. We had a very renowned agriculturist, one of the largest farm holder of mango in Pakistan, or rather in maybe in Asia. And Sairab Nawaz was very forward-looking. And we were listening, and then when we came back to the hotel, he was asking me, kya keh rahe the, kya hai? And I taught him that. And I said, Sai, you should do it. Because that you have got the mangoes, and you got the best of the mangoes in Pakistan. Why don't you do it? He understood, and he said, well, you do it. But tu lagai chhad, maa ko na kari dos. Why? This is a very good thing. Well, I'm selling my mangoes in herds. I don't want more money. What I'll do with the money? See, it is 5,000 acres where I'm growing the mangoes, so I don't know. Now, the people who got large land holdings, they're not ready to go into modernization. They don't want to waste their time. They are busy in their own lives. And those who are smaller cannot afford it. That is the tragedy of Pakistan as far as the agri economy is concerned. See, whatever you do in Pakistan, industrialization will only take place when you got better agriculture produce. You are doing nothing but adding value to your agriculture produce. It is for a fact that whatever you see. See, cotton, what has happened to cotton? 4.7 million bales we were closed. We used to have 11, 12, 1, and we always have had this. And we also have touched 16 million bales at one point in time. What happened then? Why the farmer lost the interest? And I agree with this, that farmers are not getting their price. We increase the price when we are out of time. Actually, your crop is gone, and you say, oh, grower ne lagaya nahi, iski price बढ़ा दो. वो वक्त चला गया. If you're growing wheat, and instead you start growing the sugarcane, then next time you can't grow wheat there. It will be a low yield then. There is a cycle of the crops you are going to do it. You can't do it. I mean, you can have 4 crops, 3.5 crops, but not you can do it every time. So there is a science after everything. And these things are not understood. What I want to say is that today Pakistan is passing through the worst of the economic crisis in the history of Pakistan. We have never experienced this. Our containers are stuck up at the port. We don't have money to release them. We're not opening LC even for the raw materials because we don't have the dollars. We can't do it. And things have become stagnant. I just want to give you that example that gas consumption in Karachi has gone down by 25%. Can you believe this? We're always talking about the gas shortages and all those things. It has gone down. That means 25% exports down, 25% markets are down. Now, and to substantiate that, I can give you the figures. January to January last is 18% low in export. Again, February is 28% low. December was again to 18%. So last 3 months are this. So what do you expect? your dollars are not coming in, and till at this point in time, you are unable to open your LCs and fulfill your commitments. I tell you, at TDAP, I received number of people, Turkish Airlines, DHL, shipping lines, they said we are closing down. And the shipping line said that we will omit Karachi as a destination. We are unable to send our funds to our principal. It's now 8th month, and we will not do it. So if this kind of a scenario is there, in my point of view, why I opted to participate in this conference is that I want to really convey to those people in the agriculture and people who are doing this business that agro-economy is the only solution to ills of Pakistan. The only solution. And what we are doing is that when I was in Nawab Shah, there are 700 rice mills. Okay? And I went there because they, when you're the chairman board of university, they take you everywhere. And when I found out, I was talking to them, the old time kind of mills were there. They were producing 35% broken. Can anybody survive with 35% broken rice? I studied further that how this can go on, what is going on. And in investigating, I found out that these old mills are there, we need to change them. Ultraviolet rays, sorting machine, and picking machine, and all those things were there. A series of machine, and then you get 5% broken. If you, from 35%, if you come to 5%, your economy changes. It's a radical change. So I did that. I went to the State Bank. Dr. Saab was the State Bank governor. He knew me very well. I said, this is the scheme. I want to modernize these 700 units. I have the association. You give me 70%, I give 30%. Let's do it. And when in my presence, we did 100 units. Still they are, just praying for me, what has happened. I don't know afterwards what happened of the remaining 600, but they modernized. And we were able to produce, we were able to gain. Now this change is required in every crop, every agriculture produce. And value addition is the name of the game. And I was talking to one in Thailand that, they are importing what from Pakistan? They're importing basmati, but more is the 86 and 86 broken. And what they're doing? They're adding value to it, making cereals and all those things. And it is, minimum value addition is 700%. Now, on one side, we say we don't have export surplus. Sorry, how can we export? You must have heard so many times. We don't have gas, we don't have electricity, we can't have. How can we increase export? We don't have export surplus. You don't need export. Export surplus is in grammar. It is that you are exporting 1 kg of goods. You have to export 2 kg in order to double your exports. But in value addition, you don't really need to add the weight and kg terms. You have to multiply what you're doing. I hold a conference, exhibition in Lahore of agri and pharma, engineering and pharmaceutical, engineering and health. Engineering health, in 19 country delegations were there. And you have to meet everybody. So we met. And 18 of them said, so look what perception of Pakistan we have made. He said, we never knew this is Pakistan. And I'm telling you in inverted commas, we never knew this is Pakistan. You're producing such a good quality things, such a good pharmaceutical products, light engineering, we never knew this. And they are better in quality, cheaper in price from India and China. This is what, now, what I have set myself is that I'm concentrating TDAP on agriculture and agriculture produce value addition and per hectare yield. That's what our target is. Our per hectare yields are almost 50% in terms of cotton with India. That was more, but it has gone a little beyond because Monsanto seed has outdated and all those things has happened. And with any other country, if you compare, we are 50%, we are 60%, we are 40%. So this is the economy of a farmer. If they get what Indian farmer is getting, not in terms of the fixed price, what they call it, buying price of the government, but in terms that they should increase their per hectare yield. That means that our economy would be levelized. It would come down where we really want to see that. If you produce 60% and you say, oh, our buying price is low, and you increase the buying price, then you're increasing the mengai in the whole system, and you don't get that feasibility and compatibility, so you have to do this. So one way we are doing this. The other is that we are trying to establish that we have value addition in Pakistan. Value addition in every agriculture produce, may it be, even it be cotton, then we want to see that cotton is less contaminated. We want to see that long fibers are more. We should see that the cotton which we are growing is good for finer counts, which we are otherwise importing. And and then you come to any crop. If you're talking about the mangoes, the distance between the two trees in Pakistan is, let's say, 10 meters. Look at Jahangir Tareen, he's done wonders in this. So, I mean, there are people who are doing it. Progressive farmers are there. But, then you can do it. We had the Japanese conference there. And then what they did is that, let's say we go 10 meters because it's a widespread mango tree. They chopped off when you chop off, it grows up. So what they did is that they had 5 meters distance between. The one was here and the other was there. So, there were 2 trees instead of 1. So the fertile land, they utilized it and they had a double production. So this, and there are many, many things. I can go on. And I'm so depressed about this that people really don't have any appetite. They don't know to understand. If their two end meets, they said, okay, yaar, bahut khana pina kha rahe hain na. Apne mazdoor bhi kha rahe hain, hari bhi kha rahe hain, chalo, theek. That will not work in Pakistan. If you're doing this kind of conferences, you should come up with the ideas, invite farmers, the original farmers who are actually on the ground doing it, teach them, have the programs which can teach them that this is what we are doing. Establish labs in Pakistan. And this current account deficit and trade account deficit can only go. Last one example I just want to tell you, that when they saw that Caesars made in Sialkot, they said, tremendous, we were importing from Germany. And I knew that. A German told me that we are importing Caesars, surgical Caesars and surgical instruments from Pakistan, and adding some value to it. When imported $2, we're selling it $20. Look at the difference. It's a 10 times difference. And the German told me that we are doing this. And those people who came from Ethiopia, he said, these are the same, we are importing this. We are $20. They're telling $2. Bole, Motiwala Sahab, it is that the same Caesar? So when you're paying $20, come to 10. So what I'm saying is, I don't want to take much time because it's, but I really am of the firm opinion that we have to modernize our agriculture. We have to see, and corporate farming is an excellent idea. Agha Sahab was there when we gave this idea long ago. Corporate farming can be done. We can have a corporate society, corporate body which can undertake this, and professionals should be there. We should invite the retired Australian people who are there, and Jahangir Tareen has done this. Model is in our country. It is there. He comes up with those agriculturists who are old in age. The couple comes here, he builds a house for them, and they do this. We said that what we should do is that we bring in these kind of experts, make those farms here, and under the corporate system, you can invest, I can invest, whatever percentage you want to do. And let's say this 45,000 acres, I think it's an excellent thing which has happened. If Fauji has done it, no problem, because we are not doing it. And let the Faujis do. If they're doing it, it's good for the country. But, it has to be given to the private sector as well, but private sector is not aware of it. I mean, people are not bothered. We work in the industry, and look at the industry. We talk about industry, loans, falana, long-term, refinance, and this. What we are doing? We are bringing in $30 billion, okay? And those Pakistanis living abroad, 10 million in number, they are equaling our exports. The exports of Pakistan are beaten by the home remittances of Pakistanis living abroad. Is this our potential? Our potential is not less than $150 billion. What we are doing is, we are doing at $30 billion. We are not, improvising is the key word. Persuasion is the key word. We are not doing that. I mean, I just get frustrated that why people don't understand this. And the governments don't spend. Last thing is I want to say, that's a perception of Pakistan. Logo made in Pakistan. It needs to be sellable. We are so stupid that basmati rice was registered under the Taj Mahal brand and it is sold over. We can't do anything about it. Last time I was in Gulf Food, we held at Gulf Food, and everybody praised about this, and we had a very good business. We had located a nice place, and about 82 exhibitors were there from Pakistan. They did good business. I told them, why you after this Taj Mahal and Basmati? Create your own ground and create your own brand, and that will come up to the level because you are Basmati. Inside it is Basmati. So those who are taking it, they will come back to you. So this is what I think it is, that agriculture is the mainstay of Pakistan. All else, we should not see that we push the agriculture to a place where there is a migration from rural population to urban. They should be comfortable there, they should be earning money, and all those things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ji, thank you. Okay, sorry, you go ahead.
एग्रीकल्चरलिस्ट जो है ना पाकिस्तान का, वो सबसे ज़्यादा टेक्नोलॉजी हंगरी है. यहाँ कुछ एग्रीकल्चरिस्ट बैठे हुए हैं, ये कहना कि वो उनको जो है कोई चीज़ ऑफ़र की जाए वो इस्तेमाल नहीं करते, वो सबसे ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल करते हैं. मेरा तजुर्बा ये है. मैंने अपनी ज़िंदगी के 35 साल जो है वो फाइनेंसिंग में गुजारे. $8 बिलियन की फ़ॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट इस मुल्क में लेके आया. मुझे तो पता ही नहीं था कि वेल्थ क्रिएशन कैसे होती है. आज मैं आपको एक मिसाल बताऊं, अगर 25,000 एकड़ के ऊपर आपके पास एक फॉरेस्ट लगा हुआ हो, इसका मतलब है 100 मिलियन ट्रीज़. 12 साल के बाद वो 100 मिलियन ट्रीज़ जो हैं उसकी वैल्यू बनती है $100 के हिसाब से $100 बिलियन. कैन यू इमेजिन द क्रिएशन ऑफ वेल्थ? दुनिया का एक छोटा सा मुल्क जिसका नाम ऑस्ट्रिया है, वो 40% ऑफ द ग्लोबल फॉरेस्ट जो है वो इंपोर्ट करता है. क्या करता है? फर्नीचर नहीं बनाता, वो सिर्फ टाइल्स बनाता है. उसकी एक्सपर्टीज़ है कि पूरे यूरोप को टाइल्स बना के देता है. खुद जापान, चाइना दुनिया के बहुत बड़े इंपोर्टर्स हैं वुड के. तो मैंने सिर्फ आपको वो एक खुरचन उतार के बताई है कि इतना बड़ा पोटेंशियल जो है वो इस फील्ड में है. और इसमें अब वो दौर, जैसे मैंने कहा, कि ख़त्म हो गया कि आप सिर्फ़ और सिर्फ टेक्नोलॉजी के वो जो पुराने तरीके थे उसी को इस्तेमाल करें. ये जो हम कहते हैं ना कि ये क्या कहते हैं, पानी के लिए जो है पाइप बिछा दें, ये भी अब ख़त्म हो गया. मैंने पहले भी बताया, आयोनाइजेशन को इस्तेमाल करें, रेन का सिस्टम लाएं जो सबसे सस्ता है, जिसमें आपको कार्बन क्रेडिट्स जो हैं उसके भी एडवांटेज हैं. खुद फॉरेस्ट में अगर 25,000 एकड़ के ऊपर फॉरेस्ट लगा हो तो $5 बिलियन के कार्बन क्रेडिट्स जो हैं वो आपको मिलते हैं. और आज की वैल्यू पे फिडेलिटी के CIO लास्ट वीक मेरे पास आए थे. उन्होंने मुझे बताया कि वो फोरकास्ट कर रहे हैं कि 5 साल में कार्बन क्रेडिट का रेट $500 पर टन होगा. अगर ये $500 पर टन हुआ तो ये 5 बिलियन नहीं होगा, ये 25 बिलियन होगा. तो मैंने तो आपको सिर्फ एक छोटी सी मिसाल दी है. तो एग्रो जो है उसके बड़े पोटेंशियल हैं कॉरपोरेट के लिए. अब वो ज़माना जो है जो लैंड रिफॉर्म वो ख़त्म हो गया. अब दुनिया में लैंड रिफॉर्म सब जो है वो नाकाम हो चुकी हैं. अब का जो दौर है वो सिर्फ कॉरपोरेट फार्मिंग का है. कॉरपोरेट फार्मिंग का मतलब ये कोऑपरेटिव फार्मिंग नहीं है. कोऑपरेटिव फार्मिंग का दौर भी ख़त्म हो चुका. अब सिर्फ और सिर्फ कॉरपोरेट फार्म का दौर है. मैंने अच्छी मिसाल की, हमने फौजी की बात की, लेकिन ये है कि ये तो इट्स जस्ट द बिगनिंग. जितने आपके लोकल ग्रुप्स हैं और जितने दूसरे फार्मर्स, एग्जिस्टिंग फार्मर्स हैं, वो जाके हुकूमतों से सूबों से जॉइंट वेंचर्स कर सकते हैं अंडर दिस न्यू प्रोग्राम. और जिस तरह से मैंने डेयरी की मिसाल दी थी, इस तरह से आपके 500 दूसरे जो है प्रोजेक्ट्स वो लग सकते हैं.
Thank you. Thank you. Shukriya. I think we just have a very limited time for questions. So I think 2 questions.
अस्सलाम सर, मेरा नाम नौफल मूसा है, विद HBL एसेट मैनेजमेंट. मैं आपसे पूछना चाह रहा था ना साहब कि आपने मेंशन किया 2 क्रॉप्स. आपने कहा गंदम जो लगाता है और गन्ना जो लगा रहा है दोनों परेशान हैं. ज़मींदार की बात हो रही थी, फार्मर की. ज़ुबैर साहब ने कहा कि रब नवाज साहब के मैंगोज हैरट जा रहे थे और वो काफ़ी खुश थे. सो इज़ इट कंट्रोल प्राइसिंग दैट्स द इशू हियर?
एक और सवाल ले लें फिर.
सर मैं खाली एक सिर्फ ज़ुबैर साहब आपके लिए भी एक सवाल था. सिर्फ आपने बात की वैल्यू एडिशन की, बहुत सारी बात की ऑन द एग्री एंड कमोडिटी साइड. व्हाट अबाउट बीफ?
value addition in the beef export sector, uske upar bhi please thodi si.
So
Thank
we
you.
will come back to that. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Sir, my name is Dr. Mubarak Ahmed. I have a comment to make. The prime problem with the agriculture of Pakistan is the cost of production. We have become we are not competitive in the international market, and besides this, our quality is not as par to the international market. Now, for instance, in potatoes, there are countries who are producing 10 times more than us. In sugarcane, they are producing many times more than us. Same is the case with other crops like wheat. Even we are far behind in the regional market. Now, if you see, I'm here since morning, but the prime reason is that most of the countries, they have transformed from green revolution to gene revolution. They have introduced genetic engineering, they have introduced genomics and all that, and that is the reason of their higher crop productivity, and that is the reason of their higher livestock productivity and yields. So unless we address this at national level, what we are doing is we are importing hybrid made in China, hybrid made in USA and other places. Now those hybrids have been produced keeping in view the local environmental conditions of China, USA or any other. And then what we do is we evaluate those germplasm and the one that produce better is taken up for mass cultivation. This is not the solution. You have to produce the genomic crop at national level. The crop from Sindh may be different than the crop for KPK because the agroecology is different. And so on for every agriculture products. So we need to address it, sir.
Okay, I think जवाब देने की ज़रा कोशिश. Yeah, please.
जी आप सही फरमाते हैं, ये दो क्रॉप्स हैं, लेकिन पिछले हफ्ते मैं अपने फार्म पे गया भाई फिरो, तो वहाँ पहाड़ लगा हुआ था पोटैटो का. तो मैंने अपने मैनेजर को पूछा ये इतने तुमने क्यों रखे हैं? कहने लगा जी मुझे 7 रुपये किलो के हिसाब से जो है ये मिला है, और मेरे जितने जानवर वहाँ पर फैटनिंग के हैं उनकी तो इस साल मौज हो गई है. तो दूसरी चीज़ जो है वो ये भी है कि सिर्फ एक ये क्रॉप नहीं, पूरे हमारे सिस्टम के अंदर जब प्रोडक्शन बढ़ती है तो यहाँ पर सिस्टम नहीं है कि उसको आप स्टोर कर सकें, तो स्टोरेज का प्रॉब्लम है. अब जैसे नेमत का है जिक्र, उम्मीद है मैं करता हूँ इस मामले में ख्याल कि कम से कम ग्रेन्स के लिए तो आपके पास एक फैसिलिटी अवेलेबल हो गई है, और उसके बाद जो है आपके पास स्टोरेज चेन चाहिए जो दूसरी क्रॉप्स को संभाल सकें. ये टोमेटो का भी यही हाल है. आप बाज़ार में जाएँ, वो टोमेटो केचप लेने के लिए उसका भाव देखें और जो फ्रेश टोमेटो आज उसका भाव देखें कि अगर आप फ्रेश टोमेटो जाके लेंगे तो वो चंद रुपयों में के अंदर फार्म पे मिलता है, और टोमेटो केचप की बोतल जो है 300 रुपये 400 रुपये 500 रुपये की मिलती है. तो सुबह के या बाद में जो हमारी वो स्लाइस के लिए इस्तेमाल करते हैं टोमेटो केचप, उनको चाहिए फ्रेश टोमेटो आजकल के दिनों में ख़रीदें.
Masud, do you want to also tackle the genetic intervention?
मैं ख़ुद ज़ाती तौर पर जो है वो ना जिनम को समझता हूँ, ना मैं उसका कोई यानी अपने आप को क्लेम कर सकता हूँ कि मैं कुछ बहुत ज़्यादा जानता हूँ, लेकिन मैं समझता हूँ सीड प्रोडक्शन में एक बड़ी बुनियादी ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि हमारा सबसे बड़ा जो मसला है वो सीड का है. एक तरफ तो जो कॉस्ट है वो नहीं मिलती, दूसरा हमारे पास अच्छा सीड नहीं लगाया जाता, और अच्छी सीड की जो है रिक्वायरमेंट वो चाहे डोमेस्टिकली उसको इम्प्रूव करके की जाए या ये कि उसको इंपोर्ट करके की जाए, हमें सीड की ज़रूरत है. मैं आपको एक मिसाल देता हूँ, पता नहीं आप में से कितने लोगों को पता है कि पाकिस्तान की सबसे बड़ी टिश्यू कल्चर लैब जो है वो इस वक्त ग्वादर में लगी हुई है. किसी के इल्म में है? वो उनकी कैपेसिटी जो है वो 5 मिलियन पौधे निकालने की है, और दुनिया की बेहतरीन फिक्स जिसको हम इंजीर कहते हैं वो उन्होंने वहाँ डेवलप की है, पेड़ डेवलप किए हैं. اور اس قسم کی اور بے شمار چیزیں ڈیولپ کی ہیں. تو ایک کوالٹی کے حساب سے جو ہے وہ بھی جو ٹیشو کلچر ہے وہ بھی جن ٹائپ کی ایک فیسلٹی ہے. اور یہ چائنیز ان کا پروجیکٹ ہے, اور بلوچستان میں وہ جگہ جگہ پر جو ہے کیلا, پاکستان کا سب سے اچھا کیلا اس وقت جو ہے وہ بلوچستان میں ہو رہا ہے, جس کو ولیم کہتے ہیں, ڈیزیز فری لے کے آئے ہیں. سندھ پورے کا پرابلم ہی ڈیزیز ہے. میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ یہ اگر چائنیز کی جو پروڈکٹ ہے کوئلے کی, اگر صرف یہی پاکستان میں آ جائے تو ہم اس وقت 3.5 لاکھ ٹن کی جو ہے وہ پروڈکشن کرتے ہیں. وی ہیو اے کیپیسٹی کہ اس کو ہم بڑھا کے جو ہے وہ 10 ملین ٹن تک لے جائیں, اور 10 ملین ٹن پہ آپ کے پاس کتنا سرپلس ہوگا ایکسپورٹ کے لیے, آپ اندازہ کر سکتے ہیں.
بیچ پہ آپ
جی جی
نہیں دیکھیں, what we lack, beef ہو یا جیسے in his initial remarks he also commented کہ اس ٹیمپریچر پہ ہم نہیں جا پا رہے. We don't have cold chains. Cold chains are the essential part of any item which needs to be refrigerated. Refrigerated cargoes ہیں, but you have to take that meat at a very, very low temperature, -35 to -40, which is not, which we don't have usually available. Now there are few storages, cold storages where they started this. Beef is a very good value addition. Kobe beef, you know, it's highest in the world. So we can hold, or we can, steaks, and there are so many other things which can be made out of the beef. It is definitely that Pakistan has to look into it. And the tomatoes, what Bukhari Sahib is saying is that they sell it, they either throw it away, 5 rupees or 7 rupees, and at one time it sells at 150 rupees. If proper cold storage chains were there, they can be kept there. Every kind of a vegetable has got a different temperature requirement and different times of opening. So these are all science is there. So I mean, yes, definitely if we want to grow, then if the grower needs to be given more price to their crop, there has to be a community-based cold storage chains.
One last point from me, yes. You talked about meat. So actually we're not, there are meat plants in this country. Fauji ne bahut bada banaya tha meat plant ka. Fauji ka sabse bada masla was what? Supply, not cold chain, supply. So actually جو آپ نے meat fattening کی بات کی ہے اس کی ضرورت بہت زیادہ ہے, and also how to get that animal end product to the processing plant. Actually capacity ہے پاکستان میں to do meat processing and to do export of that quality as well. So the problem comes from the right kind of supply of that meat to those processing plants. That has been the main issue.
یہ رائٹ کائنڈ جو ہے نا جی, یہ بڑا امپورٹنٹ لفظ ہے. ہمارا پرابلم جو ہے وہ فٹ اینڈ ماؤتھ کی ڈیزیز ہے. جب تک ہمارے پاس جو ہے ونس فار آل فٹ اینڈ ماؤتھ کی ڈیزیز جو ہے وہ کمپلیٹلی ایریڈیکیٹ نہیں ہوتی, ہم ایکسپورٹ نہیں کر سکتے. اور اس وقت 40-50 کے قریب جو ہے یہ مذبح خانے لگے ہوئے ہیں پورے پاکستان میں, اسٹیٹ آف دا آرٹ. اور لوگ آگے بیٹھتے ہیں دیکھتے ہیں, لیکن جس وقت ان کو وہ فٹ اینڈ ماؤتھ کی بیماری ملتی ہے سب بھاگ جاتے ہیں.
وہ بھی ہے. I think traceability is also an issue.
جی جی
ہمارے جو ایشو مجھے جو لگتا ہے سر, آئی تھنک ٹریسیبلٹی, بیکاز وی ایکسپورٹ کارکسز ان 4 pieces when it comes to beef. We don't provide data with our food, کیونکہ باہر کہیں آپ لینے جاتے ہیں, آپ اسٹیک کا پیس اٹھاتے ہیں, اس پہ لکھا ہوا ہوتا ہے کارن فیڈ ہے, اتنا ماربلنگ ریشو ہے, یہ اس کو پلان, اس کی پرائس اور ہماری پرائس میں جو گوشت ہم ملتا ہے باہر ہمارا پاکستانی میٹ ان دا مڈل ایسٹ, زمین آسمان کا فرق ہے. سو اف یو ٹاک اباؤٹ ویلیو ایڈیشن, آئی تھنک اٹس مور ریلیٹڈ ٹو ٹریسیبلٹی دین دا کولڈ چین, بیکاز اب وہ کولڈ چین از آلموسٹ دیئر, اینڈ جو مہین نے کہا سپلائی, ریگولیٹڈ structured supply is where we lack. So that is the 2 areas. Thank you, sir.
Malik Sahab, I know we've overshoot our time. Couple of comments very quickly. ایک تو یہ کہ کیونکہ آپ نے بیف پہ بات کی, تو ایکوا کلچر از آلسو اے بگ اپرچونیٹی. اینڈ جسٹ ٹو شیئر دا نمبر ود یو, $450 million کی ایک بھی ہماری ایکسپورٹ ہے. دا پوٹینشیل از $2 billion. بینک آف پنجاب ہیز ڈن اے رپورٹ آن اٹ. آئی ایم ہیپی ٹو شیئر دیٹ رپورٹ. ہماری ویب سائٹ پہ بھی ہوگی آن بلو اکانومی. اس میں ہم نے اس کو سب کو ایسپیکٹس کو کیپچر کرنے کی کوشش کی ہے. تو جو ہمارا ٹاپک تھا, میرا خیال ہے کہ یہ بھی بڑا امپورٹنٹ ایلیمنٹ. دوسرا میں ذرا تھوڑا سا معذرت کے ساتھ ایک گزارش کرنا چاہوں گا. ناصر بھائی نے کہا کہ کوآپریٹو فارمنگ کا ٹائم چلا گیا. آئی ویری ریسپیکٹفلی ڈس ایگری, بیکاز कॉरपोरेट फार्मिंग भी नहीं हो सकती अगर कोऑपरेटिव फार्मिंग नहीं हो सकती, बिकॉज हमारी होल्डिंग इतनी छोटी है कि, और वो हमारा सोसाइटल इशू है, माइंडसेट इशू है। हम किसी के साथ मिलकर काम ही नहीं करना चाहते। ये महीन को जो है इनकी प्रोडक्ट में ये अकेली काम ही नहीं कर सकती, शी हैज़ टू वर्क विद दी अदर्स। आस खर के कितनी एफर्ट करनी पड़ती है इनको, ना बैंक टाइम देते हैं, वैसे ही हम तो हमें तो अफीम लगी हुई है गवर्नमेंट की सिक्योरिटीज़ की, तो हमें तो कोई है ही नहीं इंसेंटिव। लेकिन आप, इट्स अ वेरी डिफिकल्ट थिंग टू डू। और वहाँ जो रोल प्ले कर रहा है, हम बेशक आज फौजी को क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं, बात यह है कि इस मुल्क में जो भी हाई रिस्क बिजनेस है, बाय द वे दुनिया का ट्रेंड भी यही है। हमने अभी ये महीने बड़ी अच्छी कॉन्फ्रेंस करवाई थी ऑन एग्रीकल्चर, पब्लिक सेक्टर टेक्स द लीड एंड फौजी फॉर ऑल प्रैक्टिकल पर्पज इज सेमी पब्लिक सेक्टर। कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर आ जाए, एंग्रो आ जाता, किसने मना किया? नहीं आएंगे ये, दे डोंट टेक द लीड। द डिलेमा ऑफ पाकिस्तान इज, एंड आई एग्री विद जुबैर साहब, हमारा कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर जो है वो इतना प्रोग्रेसिव नहीं है जितना उसको प्रोग्रेसिव होना चाहिए टू टेक रिस्क। 500-600 मिलियन डॉलर की लिक्विडिटी पे आप बैठे हुए हैं, बट यू आर नॉट विलिंग टू टेक दैट रिस्क। फौजी टुक दैट रिस्क एंड वी शुड गिव द क्रेडिट टू देम। टेम्पलेट बन गई है, others should also follow.
नहीं, बिल्कुल, I agree. I think just to sum up, as many challenges and difficulties that we face, there are also lots of opportunities. And I think we all agree that if anything is going to save us from the current economic crisis in particular, it will be agriculture. The meat came in the discussion very late. I just want to share, I recently went to Lahore to attend a Pakistan Chemicals Association exhibition, and they had a symposium around it, similar somewhat to what we're having today, except there was also an exhibition. Every stall I went to, they talked about indigenization, and a lot of what they make, what they call chemicals, etc., are feedstock for example, the detergents industry, etc., all vegetable oil based. Yet we know across the world, vegetable oil is not the only source for making soap. Tallow is a very important source. We are meat consumers. That's why I'm saying the meat came into the discussion very late. What happens to the bones? Why don't we extract tallow out of it? So there are these, users or producers of soap stock, etc., that are now beginning this whole process of finding out how to go about, to the abattoirs, collecting the वो चर्बी and as well as the वो हड्डियों को भी करके फिर उसको जो भी करते हैं tallow बनाते हैं. India, by the way, which is mostly a vegetarian society, exports tallow. Yeah. So they have the means of whatever consumption they do to extract the tallow out of the meat stock. जी. Yeah. Okay, ji, thank you very much. I want to thank the panel. I want to thank the very patient audience also.
And yet another very interesting discussion comes to an end. And once again, we learnt a lot from it. All the speakers are authorities on their subjects, and they all represent first-hand experience, vast experience within their fields. It was a pleasure hearing from them. And sadly, we couldn't take all the questions that we could have because time was running out. So,
we may be waiting for some people from the other room to join us.
So, Zara, what I've gathered in my time at this conference so far is that very soon San Marzano tomatoes will be growing within Pakistan. Very soon the meat industry is going to become very specialized. We'll do all sorts of cuts, tomahawks, Kobe beef and so on.
Do you think we'll ever go towards lab-grown meats in Pakistan? We are a meat-eating nation.
I think we're at some distance from that, with the biggest exporter of meat sitting right next door in India. I think that supply is not about to run out. Isn't that right? And hopefully, from what I've gathered, we'll, right now, chickens grow up to full size in 35 days.
Yes.
And if we can make that happen in 15, I guess, you know,
It's very American style chickens. Yeah.
they normally take 9 months to grow up, by the way.
Yeah.
But out goes organic, and in come the dollars.
In comes the dollars.
Ladies and gentlemen, kindly take your seats, for we have a couple of final features in tonight's program. We can finally say tonight's program.
Oh, we can, yes.
We can
yes.
say that now.
Yes, we can.
We know that.
No, no gifts for us? Yeah, we can.
Ladies and gentlemen, kindly take your seats. You would all like to hear our conference resolutions from none other than the advisor, PAC and conference director. We'll have him up on stage in a minute. So kindly take your seats, and we will